Yo, what's good, guys? It's Austin here, or Luna. So today's story time is a story that kind of ties in with a few other story times on this channel. So back in the day, I uploaded videos / story times about my old babysitter and how, like, she was a little bit on the, crazy side sometimes. And yeah, there was a couple of videos I did about her, and there were some other videos as well about other babysitters that I've had. And overall, people just seem to love story times on this channel when I talk about old babysitters that I used to have. Well, this one's a little bit different and a little bit more recent compared to those other story times. So I hope you guys enjoy this. Leave a like on the video if you do enjoy it. And before we jump into this real quick, I just want to say my song Waste My Life is like so close to 1 million plays on Spotify. Like, if you guys haven't checked it out yet, I'll leave it first link in the description. Please check that out if you would. It would be really sweet. If you like it, add it to your playlist, listen to it. Tweet me if you like it. I always love seeing the support. But anyway, enough of the shameless plugging. Okay, let's get right into this story time. So this story time takes place 3 weeks ago. Yeah, a very, very recent story time. I usually don't tell stories that have taken place so recent, but this one I just have to tell right now. It might cause a situation that leads to future story times, but we will see, okay? So this story time, like I said, takes place 3 weeks ago. I was laying in my bed just by myself on my phone. I was super tired. I'd stayed up all night the night before, just playing video games, streaming, just basically pulling an all-nighter, okay? And I'm in bed, and all of a sudden, I get an email on my business email on my phone. And the topic of the email said, "Hey Austin, it's your babysitter." And I couldn't see the rest of the email, so I click it to open the whole thing up and read the whole thing, because it piqued my interest. The minute I saw that topic, like, "Hey Austin, it's your babysitter," I assumed it was either a fan messing with me or like one of my actual old babysitters. So I open it, and it says, "Hey Austin, this is," and it says her name, so I immediately know that this is my actual old babysitter from the first ever story time that I made about her. And it's like, "Hey Austin, I just saw some of your old videos about me, like I watch those all the time, they're hilarious. I was wondering if we could link up and I could retell that story on your channel with you, and like in return, you could link my Instagram in the comments. And if it does well, you could give me half of the money." Now look, there's nothing wrong with the idea of me and her making a video together retelling one of like my most popular story times ever. That wasn't the problem. It was just so strange to me, like I haven't heard from her in so long, and I randomly get this email on my business email about how she wanted to collab together and like get a shout out on IG and get some money for it. And I have no problem for crediting somebody or paying somebody for being in my video. That wasn't my issue with the email. It just seemed so out of the ordinary. Like I couldn't even tell if it was my actual old babysitter or not, or somebody that just got her real name and was trolling me, because I hadn't heard from this girl in so long, and like out of the ordinary to just get an email like that, I couldn't even tell if it was actually her or not. So I click on the IG link that she put in the email, and it was an Instagram account just created with like 2 followers, and like it was one photo of her, and it was really old. It looked like it was pulled off Google. So at this point I realized, I'm like, okay, it can't be her. Like this has to be somebody that got her info and is emailing me trying to get my address or trying to like get personal information from me. So I respond to this email and I say, "No thank you, but it was good to hear from you. Have a great day." And I block the email after that. Like I don't want them sending me any more emails. I have no idea who that is. I don't want to know, like whatever. And I go on with my day, which consisted of me sleeping that entire day and waking up in the middle of the night disoriented. So I wake up that night, I go on to do the same thing that I did the night before, which was stay up all night, playing video games, streaming, all that stuff. And the next day comes along, and this is when things get really, really, really creepy, okay? So yeah, like I said, that next night, I stayed up the entire night, and the day came along, and I hadn't slept yet. It was morning, really, really early morning. I hadn't slept yet, I was super tired, and I decided, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna take my dogs out before I go to bed for the day. So I put my dogs on the leash, I go out into the front yard, and I'm just waiting for them to go to the bathroom, and I realize I see somebody down the sidewalk who looks really familiar, like extremely familiar. It's my old babysitter. And I'm like, no, this cannot be. So I yell her name, and she turns around. I'm like, oh my, like it's actually her. And she's like, "Austin, is that you?" I was like, "Yeah, it's me. Like, what are you doing in this neighborhood?" Because it was really, really, like, confusing to see her in this neighborhood. Like, me and her grew up in the same area, and that area is so far away from where I live now. And she's like, "Oh, I babysit your neighbor." And she points to the house right next to mine. And that was strange enough because, first of all, I hadn't told her that I lived there yet, so it was weird that she just assumed that I was living there. It's like she already knew, but I didn't try to overthink that because I had my dogs with me, so, it was a pretty good guess that I lived there. So I respond to her, I'm like, "Oh, you babysit them? Like, they're a really nice family, that's awesome." And she was like, "Yeah, I do. Like, what a small world. I can't believe you live here. Like, I used to babysit you when you were a little kid." I was like, "Yeah, that's crazy." And she was like, "Quick question." I'm like, "Yeah, what's up?" She goes, "Did you get my email the other day?" And when she said that, in my head, I was just like, oh my, like, she's actually the person that sent that email. Like, I thought it was someone impersonating her. Like, this is crazy. So I respond, I'm like, yeah, I did. Like, I thought it was someone impersonating you. I responded and just said I was not interested. I didn't think that was actually you. And she's like, yeah, it was. I'm like, oh, cool. Well, yeah, maybe we can do that sometime. She's like, all right, awesome. So then I ask her, I'm like, wait, what are you doing out here? Like, it's 6 a.m. Like, are you babysitting right now? And she was like, yeah, like I babysat all night for them. I was just going for a quick walk while the kids were asleep. I just wanted to check out the neighborhood. Like, I'm new here. I just started babysitting them a few days ago. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. And she was like, all right, well, have a good one. Like, I'll see you around. And I was like, all right, you too. Like, nice seeing you. And she turns around and she starts walking away. And I'm just sitting there on my porch, like just staring into oblivion, wondering if that was even real. I was like, did I really just see this old babysitter who also emailed me a couple days ago, like in front of my house? Like, what is going on? So anyway, yeah, after that, I take my dogs inside, I go into my room, I lay down, and I'm just thinking like, wow, what a small world we live in. Like, what a crazy coincidence. Like, I get this email from her, and then she just happens to be babysitting my next door neighbor. Like, that's insane. So fast forward like 2 days, okay, I'm out again in the morning, taking my dogs out. This time it was later in the morning, it was like 10 a.m. And I see my neighbor walking out of his house, getting into his car. And I'm like, hey man, he's like, hey, what's up, Austin, how you doing? I was like, just want to say, like, I met the babysitter that you guys hired recently. She used to be my old babysitter too. That's insane. Like, what a crazy coincidence. And he goes, babysitter? We don't have a babysitter. And I was like, what, you don't? He's like, no, what do you mean? Like, who'd you meet? I was like, oh, well, someone was walking by that I knew in the neighborhood, and she said that she was babysitting. Maybe she pointed to the wrong house or something. He was like, yeah, that's really strange. Like, we don't have a babysitter. Like, their sister's old enough to watch them. We don't have to hire a babysitter. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, well, I'm sorry for getting that confused. He's like, no problem, man. Like, have a good day. So he gets in his car and he leaves. And at that point, I am freaked out. I'm like, oh my, like, this girl was just patrolling my neighborhood, probably just finding out where I lived. And then I saw her and she pointed at my next door neighbor's house and said that she babysits for them. And it's not like I was getting this confused. Like, I was standing out there with her and she pointed right at my neighbor's house right next to mine and was like, yeah, I babysit for them. So now I know for a fact that she was just in my neighborhood for I don't know what reason and lied to me about who she babysat for. And strangely enough, it was right after she sent me an email about collaborating and I replied saying not interested. So my guess is that she got that email and was like either upset or just wanted to like know more about where I lived or something to ask me in person. And she somehow found my address and came to my neighborhood and kind of like walked around and checked it out and saw where I lived. And I'm really lucky to have just walked outside when she was doing that and saw her. So now we're here. Now I have no idea if she'll ever come back. I really hope she doesn't. I hope she doesn't see this video and come back. But yeah, I will keep you guys posted on the crazy babysitter situation. Yeah, I just thought this was insane and I had to make a story time about it. That's pretty much it for this story time. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, please leave a like on the video. I really appreciate it. Feel free to leave your story times in the comments down below and subscribe if you're new. I'll see you guys all later. Peace. Cut ties, move to LA on a bus ride.